Hey everybody, welcome to Gaming Golf. We are in post PGA tournament mode after young Phil Mickelson won. Old Tom Morris wasn't available, so young Phil Mickelson instead won. This is where we started last year after the shutdown, guys. So at Colonial this week for the Schwab. I'm excited about this. We're back to more golf, and actually, I'm excited to just kind of get back on it just because I didn't do that well last week in the PGA tournament. So kind of want to, unsully my name, if you will.
Well, don't be too hard on yourself. I mean, to be fair, no one had Phil Mickelson. If anybody had Phil Mickelson, the story goes away. If everybody was sort of onto, his chances, then what fun is it for that out of nowhere victory? So I think we get a free pass for last week. No one had it. It was just a lightning bolt of an event, and one that's going to for sure live in history.
Yeah, when a guy wins at 265 to 1, like on Sunday afternoon, I think you just enjoy it rather than worrying about where you are in the betting or DFS. But it was fun. It was crazy. We had Ricky Fowler climbing to the top 10, almost finished with a T3. Like he was like 200 something to 1 too. It was a wild week. It was a fun week, but just that seeing Phil down the stretch. I'm not the biggest Phil fan, but anytime you get someone 50 years old and win a major, it was a lot of fun. I was rooting hard for him.
Yeah, for sure. And I wasn't rooting hard for him because I have Louis in our league, and I want to try to salvage the league. I was trying to salvage the league at least by winning the PGA, but alas, it wasn't meant to be. Louis just couldn't putt, unfortunately. There's like on Saturday, he missed two really bad missed putts, and that cost him dearly. But so goes. But it's a great story. Brooks being in another major is a great story too. I mean, he can't stay healthy. He dinged his knee on that walk to 18, and that might be a problem going forward, it sounds like. But
stop. He's such a crybaby. Just stop, Brooks. Come on. You're like this one big walking muscle, and you're saying that some dude dinged you. Like, just stop. Come on. He's such a whiner.
I got to say, the Brooks Koepka brand, it took a little bit of a hit. You got a little bit of a trend going now. Koepka keeps playing himself into contention at these majors, which is great, but
he was terrible like the first 12 holes. Like he was and the story was Phil, but I mean the big story to me was that Brooks went fully backwards the first like 12, 13 holes.
Yep.
Yeah. You would have thought he'd just put pressure on Phil all day, other than maybe the first hole. He just seemed out of sorts all day. Although I was going to say Brooks has had just a really bad year for his reputation, but I feel like he brought some of it back with the new Bryson team. So he's climbing again, at least in that, what do they call it? The player social media rankings, for that $8 million bonus. You got to get that.
Yeah, that's right.
That one out there and keep firing. And all of a sudden Brooks could, and Bryson both could cash in pretty big on that viral video.
So what happened there? I just note, like I saw it, but did Bryson say something? I couldn't hear it in that part. What did Bryson say?
Apparently they amplified the video, and Bryson said something about starting his putt out on the right line because Brooks was saying that he couldn't read the putts because of the wind. And apparently Bryson said under his breath something to the effect of, you need to start it on the right line.
Oh wow, I missed that part. That's wild.
There's a video today where it has like the audio amplified, and you kind of hear it, and they have words on there what they're saying, and it sounds like Bryson just like muttered something as he walked by about something about his putting.
Yeah, we need a little hate rivalry in golf. I think it's actually good.
If Steve Stricker has any sense of humor, those guys go off together on the first Thursday of the Ryder, or the first Friday of the Ryder Cup in 4 balls or foursomes. Like those guys got to be paired up. It'd just be awesome TV.
I want to see the USGA have a little sense of humor and put them together.
It'd be beautiful.
Got an easy built-in excuse. Your recent past winners, put them all in a group.
It'd be great.
Well, and speaking of big hitters, I thought it was noteworthy that Phil was out driving Brooks. And anybody really, for that matter, on the course, which is just remarkable for a 50-year-old.
That drive he hit on 16, that was 366, just utterly. So the guy's 50 years old, just absolutely jacking bombs out there. It was great.
Yeah. So he's playing this week. He's keeping his commitment. I thought for sure it'd be like, I'm sorry, guys, but I'm exhausted. I don't think I expect much out of him this week. But then again, I expected nothing out of him last week.
Yeah, I don't expect anything out of him this week. He's said himself that, high pressure rounds take more out of him than they ever have. And I just, from a betting standpoint, fantasy lineup standpoint, I am squarely out on Phil this week, but it's sort of his MO, right? No more so than last week where he just when you think he's out, that's when he's in. When you think he's in, that's when he's out. So I don't know, but I'm going to stay away from Phil and fantasy lineups this week, but still enjoy, the history that took place last weekend.
Yeah. That's the way I feel too. What do you think, Scott?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the interesting thing to me is that he doesn't talk about how the physical part's hard. He talks about how the mental part is really hard for him right now. And coming off a win, that just has to make it even harder right now. He's 8,500 on DraftKings. He's 70-1 betting. Like I'd be more willing to bet on him, but you just can't. I can't bet him back to back. I can't pay him 8,500. I'm gonna like Jeff said. I'm gonna enjoy the story and stay far away this week.
All right, so let's move on to the tournament itself. Talking about the course first. We're playing at the Colonial. The Charles Schwab Challenge. Hey, is it another course where ball striking makes a difference? Is this what we're going to go with?
That's my story. I'm sticking to it. I don't know. I'm not sure as we go along with this podcast, we're going to find a golf course where you can hit the ball poorly and still win. But there's definitely courses where it seems like the statistical profile lines up for guys. I don't think it's so much that it maximizes ball striking, but there's courses that you can get away more with being inaccurate or maybe even being, an average to below average putter, size of greens, for example, or unfamiliarity. But this sets up to be another ball striker track on paper. And I have a feeling we're going to start mentioning some of the same players we've been talking about for a month or so. But we've got a trend. We might as well ride it until the wheels come off.
But I think the key thing here is it's not a bomber's course. Like we talk about ball string, we also talk about distance. I think this is a course, 7,200 yards that, historically you don't need to bomb the ball. And if you do, you better be accurate because there's a lot of trees. The rough's pretty tough. So I think it's a week where off the tee, accuracy is way more important than distance. And we don't have a lot of tournaments like that. It's so much bomb and gouge that I think that we talk about ball strike and all that, but I think it's a little bit different field this week. Just I think that you don't need to focus quite as much on the bombers as we do maybe normally.
Yeah, and that's a good sign. Daniel Berger won last year, and Morikawa's strong on this course too. This is a good track for both of those guys.
For sure. And Morikawa especially. I suppose we'll get into our picks or our lineups this week. To me, he was the immediate, circle that name as just someone who is only held back really by his putting. He will win as much or go as far as that putter can take him because just everything else in his game just clicks so perfectly. I believe he's leading the tour now in tee to green. And I think strokes gains approaches, if he's not leading, he's in top 5. So just, he's got the profile you want. It's all about putting for him. Colonial's greens are small-ish on tour, and he's got the track record. He's lost the playoff last year. So to me, it starts with him this week. Spieth would be a great story. Spieth hasn't finished outside the top 10 yet in Texas this year. He's got a win in a couple other top 10. So he looks like a strong play, but I just feel like to build a DFS lineup, you get a little lower price with Morikawa, and that's where I started my foundation for that.
Yeah, that's I'm not going to be very fun here because there's 5 names over 10,000, and Spieth and Morikawa are easily my 2 favorite. I think that I'm a strong feel that one of those guys wins this week. And you mentioned Morikawa. You said that you think he's number one. He's number one in tee to green, ball striking, and approach the last 36 rounds. Number one in tee to green and ball striking and approach in the last 50 rounds. You're right. As long as he wins the tournament last week, he putts it all. Like he lost 2.3 strokes putting last week, and he was the best ball striker out there. He just it comes down to it. He's lost strokes putting in 4 of 5 tournaments, and that's just killing him right now. But he's just so good everything else that he can make up for it. But he putts average, and he wins the tournament.
Yeah, I think there's not much way around that. So there's 5 guys in the 10,000 at 5 figures. Spieth is the more expensive than Justin Thomas. Is that something you would have bet on at the beginning of the year? 11-2 versus 11 straight up. Thomas missed the cut last week. Looked out of sorts. Morikawa's at 10.5, Reed at 10.3, and Berger at 10,000.
I would just Spieth Morikawa. That if you're going to start building lineups, those are the 2, I think. Thomas, beware the angry golfer. JT off a miscut. Certainly, he can get hot, and he's a guy that could win this thing by 5. You never know if it just clicks back for him. But I need more Morikawa. Start there.
Yeah.
And you look at the names, and I think the guy that will get lost a bit in here, ownership wise, is going to be Patrick Reed. I think the Berger won last year. Everybody loves Morikawa and Spieth. Justin Thomas, obviously Justin Thomas. So you wonder if you wanted to play a little game theory here, I have to think Reed's the lowest owned, and he's just a weird player. Like last week, he was awesome around the green. He was awesome tee to green, but he was bad off the tee. He lost 2.2 shots and still finished 17th. He was actually the best golfer on the weekend. He had the lowest score. If you look at Saturday, Sunday, he had the lowest overall score between those two rounds. So playing really well. If you want to be a little different, it's risky to go away from Morikawa just because the dude is so awesome. But if you want to be a little risky and get lower percentage and start your lineup a little different, I think Reed is the top guy as a way to make yourself a little different from the rest of the field. And a guy that he won at Farmers, he won in January, played really well last week, was sixth at Wells Fargo 2 weeks before that. He's the guy right here. If you want to be a little different, I think is a really good play.
Yeah, and I like starting with at least one golfer in this tier because it's the field's only 121 golfers, and one of those is Keith Clearwater with a special exemption. I think you start with the guy in this 5-figure range, and you can still build a lineup that could get you six guys to get through. I think we can find some cheap guys this week, and because there's fewer people are going to miss the cut.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear who you like, guys like in the sevens when we get there. I like some guys in the six, but I found the sevens a little tougher. There are some names, but they're not quite the sure things that we saw last week in a major. It's always, it's always a little jarring when you go from major to regular tournament. We got a lot of guys up top, though, which is interesting. There's a lot of big names. I was surprised how good this field is. We talked about that earlier, with the major coming off it, but there's a lot of good names after a top of 9,000. But then it's tough to get the sevens because it's just hard to win in a week where there's so many good names, and you want guys in the sevens that can compete or get a top 10 or top 15. This week's gonna be tough to win, especially betting wise. Like it's harder to find deeper odds just because there's 8 guys in this field that are under 20-1 right now, and you rarely see that in a non-major field. That's
pretty crazy. And I think last year this is how this is the restart, and they had a really good experience. Yeah. They were treated well here. I think there might be some loyalty to this tournament here. Let's hit these nines. Zalatoris is 99, Answer 97. Gone are the days where we can get Abe Answer cheap, guys. Tony Finau, 96. Scotty Scheffler, 95. Cory Connors, 94. Gone are the days we can get Cory Connors cheaply, at least in a non-majors. Joaquin Niemann's at 93. Woodland, 92. Sungjae M at 91. And Kokrak at 9,000. Jeff, we'll start with you. What jumps off at you?
Jumps off just how great that tier is. I mean,
yeah.
Really, it's hard to go, and you touched on it. It's nice to always build with one guy in the 5 figures, but man, I mean, if you could take two off that tier, that also seems like a pretty good strategy. I think we'll get to the straight ticket bets later, but all those guys are hovering around 20, 25, 30 to 1 odds this week. Very tempting to drop a few units of whatever it is you're betting with in that tier. Will Zalatoris, I mean, all right. I was slow to come around on Zalatoris, and I would like to announce that I've been converted now. When you have 3 top 10s in your first 3 major championships, I am no longer fading Zalatoris. There's something he's built like a 3-iron, and I just couldn't wrap my head around it. This guy's ready to be just a major championship killer, but he is. At this point, it's just time to win an event, and the way he's playing, there's no reason why it couldn't come this week. He also fits the profile of a player that would have a lot of success. Obviously, our affection for Abe Answer is well documented. We're back to Texas. He's a San Antonio native. I don't know what it is. I just like picking Texans to do well in Texas. And there's another one there. And ditto Scotty Scheffler, another guy who very quietly TA at the PGA last week, very quietly playing well, hasn't gotten as much airtime on our show, but he's another guy who just fits that profile. But like it's time to
got no airtime on CBS either, for that matter. I'm still waiting to see a shot by him over the weekend.
No, so that's right. And obviously Cory Connors is seems to be ball striking his way around the PGA Tour and playing the best golf of his life too. So it's a great tier of golfers, and hard to talk me out of many of those names, really.
I'd like to start by talking you out of one of them, and Tony Finau is weird right now. The last 5 tournaments, he has 3 missed cuts and 2 top 10s, which is just bonkers. Think about it. He was 8th last week. But you look at the way he's hitting the ball, and it's not great. Like, he barely gained on approach last week. He gained 6.3 shots around the green. So he was just insane around the green. It was always a good thing, but I don't know how consistent that can be. He doesn't do that. He hasn't done that. You look at his past 10 tournaments, he's never done anything close to that around the greens. And he's lost shots gained and approach at Wells Fargo. He lost shots off the tee at Valero. It's been a weird stretch right now. He's not playing like Tony Finau plays. So I'm not going to him at 9,600. That's a guy that I often play. Not going there this week. I think Zalatoris, actually, the betting line is a little bit off. He's not one of those 8 guys under 20 to 1, which seems off to me. I think at 25 to 1, he's a really solid bet to win this week. I mean, he hit the ball so well last week. He gained 8.2 shots in approach. Just didn't putt very well. If he putts well, he's another guy that probably wins the tournament last week if he putted really well. And then I'm going back to Cory Connors. We've talked about him. He's kind of the mascot of the program. We like him so much here. He's gained a ton of shots on approach and tee to green the last 3 or 4 weeks. If he putts it all or hits the ball, his short game is there at all. He's a guy that thinks to be right there, and he feels like he's, it's not a stat thing. It's a little more kind of a gut feel, but he feels like he's about to win a tournament. He's had 4 top 10s since March started. I think I like Cory Connors a lot at 9,400. I'm playing him and Zalatoris over our boy Abe Answer this week.
Danger. I picked Cory Connors and one and done already, and that's bad news for him.
I'm off Cory Connors officially now.
But I mean, it's just every week he's there. Yeah. He's there. And yeah, he's not. I'm paying up for the privilege this week, and DraftKings is 9,400. But I'm going to have a lineup with him in it for sure, maybe 2. We'll see. Let's move on to the 8,000s. But before we do that, quick note from our sponsors. That was a very quick note for those of you that are on live stream with us. There's no note, but as we like to announce to the world.
During that break, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, well, we all recharged our batteries. Let's get through the 8,000s now. 8,900 Justin Rose, 88 Billy Horschel, 87 Charley Hoffman, Ryan Palmer 86, another Texan, Phil Mickelson 85, Kevin Na 84, Streelman 83. Hey guys, has he ever finished in the top 10 in a major? I never heard that stat this weekend. Matt Wallace 82, Cameron Tringali 81. He and I tied with the same score on Friday for 9 holes. He did better on the back than I did.
You definitely beat that 48. That was brutal.
No, I had a 48 as well on my front 9 there as well. But different skill level, different course. Brian Harmon at 8,000 also there. So who do we like? Who do we fade in this one? Scott, we'll start with you this time.
So there's a guy, I don't love this range, actually. Usually I love the 8s. This week I don't love the 8s, but 8,700, Charley Hoffman. If you look at this field, in the last 36 rounds, he is 4th in shots gained tee to green, 3rd in ball striking, 3rd in approach, 2nd in DraftKings points. This whole field, last 36 rounds, he has just been playing so well right now. He's top 20 4 weeks in a row after the top 20 again last week. Kind of got in the hunt a little bit late there. He's one of those guys they were showing to post a number at the scorecard, but ended up finished 17th. But I just think he's playing the best this group. I think that he's actually a bet this week too. He's 40 to 1 right now, dropped from 45 from earlier in the week. I think he's gonna be pretty popular. Unfortunately, though, I think there's a lot of people. He sticks out pretty good at his 8,000s. A guy who's playing the best.
Well, this is gonna be a quick segment because Hoffman's as well from 8,000s.
You're always on the Hoff, though, right? It's one of your guys.
17 of 21 cuts made this season, playing the best golf of his life. And that's really, I don't know that there are any of the other guys. I guess that's Phil, but who else can you say in this tier is playing the best golf of their life right now? It's Hoffman. So the only other guy that I flagged, maybe Matt Wallace. It's a bit of a big game hunter, but I would still go Hoffman off of this tier for sure.
Yeah. I think Harmon's kind of sneaky at 8,000. Not a big hitter, but he's an accurate hitter, and he's just got a short game that kills for. And he always makes the cut. It seems like. I think this is a course he can compete at.
I'm a little worried about him. I looked at him. I'm a little worried that he's been really kind of living off the putter lately. He's gained a ton of strokes putting the last 5, but you can keep that up. You can keep the putting up. He could do well. I'm a little bit worried about the approach numbers, but you're right. He's a guy that this is kind of the course that he tends to play well. And I mean, results are what matters. And he's finished top 24 the last four of the last 5 tournaments, which is really good at this price. I'm with Jeff too. I like Matt Wallace in this range too. No surprise to anybody. I'm a Matt Wallace guy, but 8,200. We got 3 top 20s last 5 tournaments. Made the cut last week of the PGA. Didn't hit it great on approach, but did everything else pretty well. It was a little struggle around the greens, but he's hitting the ball well. He's a guy that I think makes the cut, and a pretty good bet for a top 25 this week.
The tempestuous Matt Wallace, if you will. He's got a little bit of volcano in him.
He's no Eric Van Rooyen though.
No, that was amazing.
That was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't awesome if you were the caddy of the other golfer in that group,
right?
Or was it Wallace's caddy? I think that almost got drilled by that.
Yeah, and then or you're the guy who had to go in like replace the tee markers because Van Rooyen just destroyed it so much.
Yeah. Just that was wild. That was really wild. That got viral real quick. All right. Any fades in that group? Anybody you're steering away from?
I mean, just Phil. I'm going to enjoy the story, but I wouldn't. I'm not going to go near that for fantasy lineups or gambling purposes.
I think Justin Rose is a big fade. He gained 11.7 shots putting last week.
Wow.
He finished 8th, but just a number that blows. It just jumps off the page. He lost on tee to green. He lost an approach. He lost around the green. Ended up finishing 8th because he just putted his mind out. And he missed the cut at Valspar the week before that. It was a horrible putting. So he's just kind of all over the place right now. There's just too many. You look at his shots gained page. There's just too much red all over the place. It's kind of just fully inconsistent. There's no way I'm paying 8,900 this week.
All right, very good. I'm not going to list every single $7,000 golfer because there's lots of them. The vast middle is here. Jeff, who do you like in this group? Because you got to find some guys to fit in so you can afford your upper level golfers.
Yeah, well, I made a sneaky move, I think, in our fantasy league this week, picking up Peter Uihlein.
Saw that.
Someone that I paid attention to, just the Titleist connection early in his career, so I always kept an eye on him. It seems like it just seems to be playing well heading into this. He's played Colonial a couple times. There's a weird stat of Colonial where first-time Colonial players, it's almost like they don't really – it's not a first-timers track. Although it could also be just a product of people who come and play it year after year over and over again. But Uihlein, let's see, a win – he got 5 top 25s on 2 tours in the last 2 months. So he's bouncing between Corn Ferry and I might be playing in Europe now too. He's done that in the past. He's just someone that I watch for when he pops up again. I had good luck with him in a fantasy team in the past, and so when he resurfaces, it's just someone.
He's always like the alt tournament leaderboard guy. Yeah. It seems like if they're playing at Punta Cana, he's on that leaderboard. You know it, but and like you said, the Corn Ferry Tour. Scott, how about you? Anybody in the 7,000s you like? How are we fitting in your lineups here?
Yeah, so there's a group of names. I mean, there's obviously, you mentioned there's a ton of names in here. I think Siwoo Kim at 7,700 is playable. Has not been as good the last 2 tourneys. He missed the cut at PGA, but he had 320 top 25s before that. I think Chris Kirk is kind of in that same mold. He was he missed cut the last 2 weeks, but was really good the weeks before that. So maybe him, but a little bit lower in the 7,000s. I think there's some interesting names. I think Joel Damon is interesting right now.
God, he's taking my names.
I'm sorry.
It's good.
He's made 4 straight cuts, and he won at Punta Cana, obviously the alt event. Hit it really well last week. He had 5.5 shot gains approach at the PGA. Played really well, just putted terribly, but he's one of the better ball strikers last week. So I always like guys that are hitting the ball really well in a tough event like that and just putted badly and but coming off the next week. He was 18th at Wells Fargo before that, gained 7.1 tee to green in that week. So he's just playing really well. The putting's an issue, but if he could putt even average, I think he's a guy at 7,400 that works. I like Johnny Vegas at 7,100, made 8 of 9 cuts. He gained shots in tee to green 5 straight weeks. He was 9th place his last tournament, Byron Nelson. He's 3rd in this field. If you look at shots gained off the tee, going to be an important stat this week because you have to be accurate off the tee. He's 3rd in the field in this whole field in the last 36 tee to green. So there's enough like stats and stuff that works there where Vegas 7,100 makes some sense to me too.
I also think you got to ride the wave with Harry Higgs. I mean, it's so much fun to watch the PGA. Yeah. But he also played his way into the Masters with a top 10 finish. So
top 5, right?
Sideshow, but the guy can play. And so if you want to fantasy golf is supposed to be fun, right? 7,200 is a pretty good price for a guy coming off the week that he just had.
Kind of fully off the radar in that range too. A guy who people liked a couple years ago and has been good lately. Russell Knox at 7,300 has been made 3 straight cuts, all in the top 40. He was 18th at Wells Fargo, even though he lost a ton of shots putting. So if he could putt average, another guy. He's got a lot of issues on the green. He's lost strokes in 8 and 9, but he's gained stroke on approach in 7 straight weeks. He's a guy who's hitting the ball a little better than people think right now, just because he's putting it so poorly. But I think at 7,300, I don't think anybody's gonna be on him, and I think he's a guy that you get a low percentage that makes the cut this week too.
All right, let's keep rolling. I know Jeff's up against a hard out here. So anybody in the cheapies, in the 6,000s? Anybody you like, Jeff?
I circled Benny on. made the cut at the PGA last week, 6,300. And then maybe Michael Thompson, 34th at the Masters, 12 to 16 cuts this year. Just give me a reason a guy's going to make a cut, right? He runs a little hot and cold, but it's also his first event in Texas. So a well-rested Michael Thompson, who's been making more cuts than missing them this year. I circled those two guys in the 6,000.
Scott, you?
Two guys down here, super cheap. Vincent Whaley, the guy we've been going back to, is 6,200 this week. He's made 8 straight cuts, which I think I read is fourth longest on the whole tour right now. Top 36, 7 weeks in a row at 6,200. That is really cheap. And a guy that I really like this week is Luke List at 6,900. Made 4 of 5 cuts, finished 6 at Wells Fargo. He's gained shots and approach in 4 straight weeks, off the tee in 7 straight weeks. Another guy that if he can just putt decently, actually could be a guy that could get into the top 20 this week. I think he's underpriced at 6,900. He should be like mid 7s, I think.
I'll throw one name out here. You might want to exhume Denny McCarthy at 6,300. I think he's got a really nice short game. I think that will play here. His performance has been a little bit all over the map, but did have a top 5 earlier at the Honda. So there is some reason to see some upside there, but it's just another name.
Might be the best putter on the whole tour, though.
Indeed.
He's an awesome putter.
Incredible putter. All right, before we sign off, I need a winner from you guys and a couple other quick bets. Jeff, you first.
I'm down to 2 for the one and done. It's either going to be Willie Z or it's Scotty Scheffler. And I think I'm just going to go all in on my full conversion, my stepping into Team Zalatoris and say a 25-1 too. I really
plenty of room still on the bandwagon. Jump on. That's all right.
We mentioned 8 guys that are under 20 to 1. I think you could pick one of them this week. I think all you could do. I like Morikawa and Spieth, but I'm going to go Morikawa in the better odds, 15 to 1. I'm betting Will Z at 25 to 1. I'm betting Charley Hoffman at 40 to 1. And deeper down the board, I'm putting a couple bucks on Matt Wallace at 70 to 1. I think he's a guy that can compete this week. So a little bit shorter betting card than past weeks, but some guys I really do like in those spots there.
And your one and done pick is?
I think it's going to be Morikawa. I'm a little bit behind in one and done. I did really well last year. I've struggled this year. I need to get some wins, and I'm going to go for it. I got to win like 3 in the next 10 or something to have a chance. So I'm going to go Morikawa this week.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap up this week's Gaming Golf. Good luck to everybody in the Schwab at the Colonial. Thanks for watching and listening to us. Please send us your comments. Please subscribe, as always, and rate and review us. We really do value your feedback, especially as we're trying to launch this off the ground this year. So please chime in with us. I'm Jeff Erickson. He's Jeff Ritter. He's Scott Jenstad. Thanks for listening and watching. Take care.